Hey guys, this is Gaurav from Django Builds. So today we are starting a new project. Um, so the idea is to build a wall clock using wood and epoxy resin. Saying the idea is to make a triangle structure and then use epoxy and fill it inside the structure, different colors, so you'll see once we are done. So what we're trying to do is to create a equilateral triangle, which is a 60-degree angle on all sides, all three sides. Okay, so I figured it's gonna be extremely difficult to make this cut on the miter saw, so we're gonna try to do this with a handsaw. Let's try. Okay, so I figured it's gonna be a bad idea even with a handsaw. So we'll try to use a circular saw and let's see how it goes. Isn't too shabby. Alright, so we're gonna replicate this in all the three pieces and we'll move to the next steps. Perfect. Look at this guy. Can you believe that? Okay, Houston, I think we have a problem. So all the three pieces are cut, but I figure they're all not exactly 30-degree angles. So this tool I use to measure the angles apparently is not accurate. So let me show you what the situation looks like right now. So here it is. You see the gaps here? So it's not entirely an equilateral triangle anymore, but you know what, this might work. We can still have the frame like this, and the epoxy will not just be here, it will also fill up these voids, and I think it's gonna look cool. It's gonna look like a star or something. So the next step is to line this up on MDF or something, and then we can kind of start pouring the resin. Alright, I'll see you in the next step. Okay, so we are now going to start taping the base. We need to put the tape because we don't want the resin to be sticking to the plywood once it's cured. Okay, so we have the structure all clamped up now. Okay, now we'll seal the interior corners of the frame so that the resin doesn't seep out. We'll also put this piece of MDF inside the frame so that we are using less epoxy, and then it's also going to be a little easier to drill a hole in the back when we are putting the watch mechanism in. So we'll do a bit of an initial pour so that the wood sticks to each other, and then we'll do a bigger pour when the structure is solid and it should be able to handle the pour without the clamps. So we are using a 2:1 ratio resin. I got it from Amazon. So we'll pour about 100 grams. Okay, the resin has been sitting for about 3 minutes. The bubbles have popped out by themselves. So what we'll do is we'll pour in these cracks first so that the wood sticks to each other fairly quickly. Okay, so we've brought the structure inside. We've sealed the edges and made boundaries to make sure that the resin does not overflow once we start doing the pour. And meanwhile, I've just mixed about 600 grams of resin with a beautiful bright yellow color, and that's the color combination I'm going for. So we'll do the pour. It probably will fill it halfway through, and then we'll let it set for a few hours and then come back, and then we'll do the final pour. So this is how it looks like. I gotta use more color next time. It's still see-through a little bit. We'll see when it sets and see what kind of color it shows up. Okay, we are back. It's been about 7-8 hours since we did the first pour. It's semi-hard, still a bit gooey, so I can insert my fingernails and to make a mark. So this is the best time to do the second pour. But what we'll do is we'll scuff it up a little with a 100 grit sandpaper, so that when we do the second pour, the resin sticks to the first layer. I'm gonna mix about 500-ish, so that, because I haven't accounted for these cracks, and then I gotta let it overflow a little from the structure so that it fills up pretty nicely, and then I of course will sand it down once it's fully cured. So let's mix up some resin. So I'm using acrylic colors. They're just the generic acrylic colors you can get on Amazon. This one is from a company called Flash. I've used them before. They aren't super great, but they're okay. Ideally, we should use pigments which are specially built for this kind of work, but I haven't been able to find good pigments so far, and especially in the colors I want. I have 3 or 4, and I've used those colors quite a bit, but haven't been able to find all the colors I want. Okay, we are ready to pour now. Always wear gloves because you don't want epoxy sticking to your hands. It's very difficult to get it off, and it's super irritating. We'll pop the bubbles using the heat gun. Okay, Houston, we've got another problem. So we've got the structure outside. The resin has been curing for almost three days now, so it's nice and hard. It's beautifully cured, no bubbles, at least not what I can see. Hardens up. If you can see here, this side is a little drier, and then the resin kind of ran down on this side and spilled out a little. I could see that when I was pouring, and I didn't really bother too much because I tried making adjustments, but I could just not get it 100% level. So I knew this problem was gonna come up, but um, it seems a little bigger than what I thought. What has happened is that if you look closely, is the resin is not up to the level of the wood structure, so there is a gap, and whereas on the other sides the resin has filled the structure fairly nicely. You know, even on this side is a problem now. So you might think this is not a big deal, but it is actually a big deal because, you know, we have to make sure that the resin sits flat with the structure, so there should not be any gap. It should be perfectly smooth. So where the resin ends and the wood starts, it should be extremely smooth, and that's how the resin projects are done. So this okay. So now there are at least three different ways that I know of to fix this problem. So the first one is the good old method of sanding. So the idea will be to put a 60 grit disc on the orbital sander and keep sanding till the time you know, the entire surface is level, and we get rid of this mistake here. Now the problem with this method is that it's going to take hours and hours to do this kind of sanding. It's a big piece, and it will just take a lot of time, and it will just create a lot of mess. The second step, or the second way, is to use a router. Now what I did and what everybody recommends doing is to create a router sled, as they call it, and that's primarily used for leveling the surfaces, and that's something we can use. I'll try to find that sled somewhere. Okay, so here's the sled. It's a jig I made in about 30 minutes, fairly easy to do. So the idea here is that the router kind of sits inside the sled and slides over on a flat surface, and you can keep the sled on top of your piece and keep routing till the time you have an extremely flat surface. So in this case, I will again not go with the router method as well, because that process also takes a lot of time. Okay, the third method I know is to use a hand planer. Now this is a beautiful, very useful tool which I think everybody should have. Now this is something which imitates a hand planer, but this is electric. So what happens is that it has a blade at the bottom which kind of rotates, and then you can plane your surface using this tool. I think this one is going to be the most suitable method for fixing this problem. So after a lot of trial and error, I figured even the planer is not gonna work. It's too much effort. So we're back to our outer method. This will take a lot of time, but you're gonna do the things in the right way. So already set up the sled. And it's gonna just float over the piece, and we're gonna plane the surface as we move. Okay, so I wanted to show you how the piece looks from close up. So you can see as this router moves over this piece, it takes out a chunk of the material, and by the end of the whole exercise it will be a flat plain surface. So that's how it works. So we still have to go through the entire piece and get this done. Okay, so we're done with our planing of the piece using a router. Now you can see we fixed the mistake we made during the pouring process. Now it's a flat surface, not really flat, but flat enough for us to start sanding. We'll of course have to sand it a lot. We'll start off with a 60 grit, and then we'll probably move all the way up to 2000 grit. So it's gonna take probably an entire day to sand just the face of this piece. Oh, by the way, look at the mess. And this is what I was talking about. It just creates so much mess. Okay, so let the sanding begin. Okay, we're gonna do some wet sanding now. This is 400 grit paper. Good exercise. $600. 1,000. 1,500. Hey, stop fighting. Or whatever you're moving. Okay, I want to show you how smooth this surface is now. Have a look. Beautiful. Okay, the hole is drilled. So earlier in the video I told you guys that I do not have a wood stain available at home, and with the whole coronavirus thing, it's absolutely impossible to get it at this point of time. So we gotta figure out a solution. I had seen some videos on YouTube where people used stuff available at home for staining wood, and one of those things was good old cherry blossom shoe polish. Again, never done it before. I'm not sure how it's gonna come out, but I do want a dark stain, possibly on the blackish side. We'll try it on a piece scrap piece first and see how it comes out, and then we'll mask our piece and then apply it on it. Alright. Okay, so 3 coats are done on each side, and it isn't looking bad. It's looking nice. Exactly the amount of color I wanted, and the grains are popping up pretty nice as well. I hope when we put our beeswax based finish, it will pop out the grains even more. Okay, so we will use a headlight restorer for polishing the resin part of our piece. Just apply a few drops and then rub it nice with a piece of cloth. Okay, so this is the finish we're going to use. This is a beeswax based finish, and I'll provide a link up here where I've kind of shown the process of making this wood finish at home, so you can go check it out. I'll just take a piece. Okay, so we will let it soak in a bit, and then the only thing that's left is to put in the wash mechanism.